Okay, this one is by far the most stressful and complicated trade return that we have done. We had done Erik Karlsson, we had done James Neal, we had done a few of these other ones, Tatar and JT Miller and whatnot, and usually those are pretty straightforward. It's a team to a team, you get the picks and all that, and once the picks are made, we can kind of make an assessment as to where things went from there. Sometimes there's even a third or a fourth team involved, but when it comes to the Ryan O'Reilly to St. Louis Blues trade, it's not 2, 3, or 4 teams involved. It's actually 6, and it even expands over to 8 if you want to branch out into the legit nitty-gritty details of things. We're not going to go over every single thing over here, but I'll try my best to keep the ideas kept within the same soul of the trade return, you know? Because when we're talking about the trade return of the Ryan O'Reilly to St. Louis trade being finalized, it technically is on a few points of views. It's just there's one asset involved in the tertiary trades that follow that isn't established yet, that was scrambled around and makes things a lot more difficult. But either way, today we're talking about Ryan O'Reilly, NHL superstar and Selke winner, one of the best defensive forwards in the National Hockey League today. He is 30 years old, and in 2018 he was sent over from the Buffalo Sabres, a team that wasn't really all too great, but was seeing some still pretty alright numbers out of O'Reilly at 61 points in 81 games played in his last season with Buffalo, over to St. Louis, where in his first year, 77 points, 82 games played, was a plus 22, was under a point per game in the postseason, and he won the Selke. Now you take a look at Ryan O'Reilly, he's making $7.5 million until 2023, and he is one of these just solidified point per game, just under point per game kind of superstars in the NHL, and one of the most important players in the Blues. He's their captain, for crying out loud. This is how the trade went down. Back in July of 2018, we saw ourselves Ryan O'Reilly get sent over from the Buffalo Sabres to the Blues in exchange for Patrick Berglund, Vladimir Sobotka, Tage Thompson, a 2019 first, and a 2021 second. These are all the assets over here that the St. Louis Blues traded away for Ryan O'Reilly over to the Sabres. Patrick Berglund playing for Buffalo was... he had a year there. He had 4 points, 23 games played, but then he yeeted over to Sweden. He's there till today. Next up, guess what? Vladimir Sobotka is over here too. He played for the Sabres for a little bit. He had spent 2 seasons over there, had 3 points in 16 games in his last year, and then he yeeted over to Switzerland. He is in the Czech Republic today, playing for hockey club Sparta Praha. Now you have yourselves the last few guys. Tage Thompson was drafted by the Blues and sent over to Buffalo, where as a 6'7", 218 forward, he is still trying to establish himself a mainstay role on this team. He had 14 points in 38 games last season, he's looking towards taking the next step for next season, and he's 23, turning 24 years old, so he's got himself a boatload of time to establish himself on this hockey team. Next up, the draft picks. This is where things get a little bit interesting because the first pick right here, the first one that the Sabres acquired from St. Louis, was the 2019 first-round pick, 31st overall. With it, the Sabres selected defenseman Ryan Johnson, who is a 20-year-old, 6 feet, 170-pound left-handed guy who had been playing really well in the Sioux Falls Stampede system in the USHL in his draft year. Eventually, playing for the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, he made himself known as a pretty effective offensively minded defenseman over there, suited up for the World Juniors, and now he is heading over for his junior season. Now that's all fine and dandy. We have talked about 4 out of the 5 assets that the Sabres ended up acquiring from St. Louis for Ryan O'Reilly, but this is where things get a little bit difficult. Because the second-round pick that the Blues sent over to the Sabres was actually not used by Buffalo. The reason this is so complicated is because that second-round pick went from the Sabres to the Golden Knights to the LA Kings and eventually to the Ottawa Senators. Boy, we've got so many trades over here. The big one that we're going to discuss is when the Sabres traded away this second-round pick to the Vegas Golden Knights. They also added on a 2022 fifth-round pick of their own in exchange for Colin Miller. Now, this is why the trade return isn't actually all too finalized, because the Sabres, when they traded away the second-round pick acquired from the Blues, ended up trading it alongside of a fifth-round draft pick that in which has not been used, and that fifth-round draft pick will expand a little bit more upon that fifth-round draft pick at the end of this video. However, the Sabres acquired Colin Miller, a guy from the Vegas Golden Knights system who was a really good offensive defenseman. He was producing so many points, and I was just kind of thinking, okay, when the Sabres acquired this guy, That's it. Like, that is their offensive defenseman on the blue line right there, playing alongside of Dahlin. It's going to be a really good pairing. And for the most part, he hasn't really showcased the same level of success he had with the Golden Knights in Buffalo, but Colin Miller is still there here today. You can see in the last season of play, 12 points, 48 games played, but then again, he was playing on Buffalo, not a great team over there. So either way, this is kind of where everything solidifies for the first little bit. The Golden Knights acquired 2 picks, they traded away Colin Miller, the Sabres ultimately end up with Berglund, Sobotka, Thompson, Ryan Johnson, and Colin Miller in exchange for Ryan O'Reilly, whom they traded away to St. Louis, as well as that 5th round pick. This gets a lot more complicated now, because what the Vegas Golden Knights did with the second they acquired, which was initially St. Louis's, was they traded that as well as their own 2nd round pick to LA. For Alec Martinez, a guy who helped them actually win a few playoff rounds over here, and is a pretty good, stable NHL caliber defender. If you were watching the playoffs last year, you could definitely see the impact that Martinez had in all the games he played. He's a super safe top 4 bet. He scored a Stanley Cup winning goal, for crying out loud. He's legit, and he was acquired for that 2nd round pick from St. Louis, as well as Vegas' own 2nd. Now, bonus trade time, the LA Kings didn't actually use Vegas' 2nd round pick, because instead they traded it away to the New York Rangers for Lias Andersson. The Rangers then used this Vegas 2nd round pick, which was sent over to them from the LA Kings in the Martinez deal, to select Will Coyle, who was a pretty good left winger playing out of the OHL. He suited up for the Hartford Wolfpack this previous season. He wasn't all too great, but then again, he was 18, so it's kind of okay. This is just a little pit stop in the road, because the St. Louis 2nd round pick that the LA Kings acquired in this trade for Alec Martinez was then sent over alongside of LA's own 5th round pick in 2021 to the Ottawa Senators for a 2nd round pick from Ottawa that was a little bit higher than the St. Louis pick. St. Louis's initial 2021 second, which was traded all the way back in 2018 at the very beginning for Ryan O'Reilly, eventually turned out to be 49th overall. The Kings saw a player they liked a little bit earlier in the draft, so they traded this 49th overall pick along with their own 136th overall pick to the Senators for 42nd overall, where they selected Francesco Pinelli. Oh my goodness. Take a look at where things are now. The Senators ended up using that St. Louis 2nd round pick. They selected Ben Roger. The LA 5th was sent over to the Carolina Hurricanes for the Sens to move up. They selected Bobby Orr with that pick. And now you have a trade profile that looks like this. Back in 2018, the Ryan O'Reilly trade saw Berglund, Sobotka, Thompson, a 1st and a 2nd in 2021 get sent over to Buffalo, but give it a year, and the Sabres traded away that 2nd to the Vegas Golden Knights for Colin Miller. They also traded away their own 2022 5th. The 2022 5th has an asterisk right here because we'll get into that at the end of the video, but that same 2nd round pick was then sent away from Vegas to the LA Kings for Alec Martinez. They also sent away their own 2nd. Vegas' 2nd went over to New York for Lias Andersson, and the LA Kings used that 2nd round pick acquired from the St. Louis Blues in a trade-up scenario with the Ottawa Senators, where ultimately they landed 42nd overall, selecting Pinelli, and the Sens drafted their own guys too. Now, the reason I say in the title and everything that this stuff is not confirmed, it's almost finalized, it's sort of finalized, it's not there yet, is because the 5th round pick that the Vegas Golden Knights ended up acquiring from the Buffalo Sabres in the Colin Miller trade, firstly, it's 2022, so it hasn't been used yet. But secondly, this pick right here was traded away in a 3-way trade with the San Jose Sharks and the Chicago Blackhawks a year later at the 2021 NHL Entry Draft. The final destination of this Buffalo 5th round pick is now San Jose, as the Chicago Blackhawks and the Vegas Golden Knights all acquired and exchanged stuff. They went out there and got the Janmark trade done with salary retained. San Jose acted as the mediator to allow it to happen, and the end result saw Vegas acquiring Matthias Janmark, Nick DeSimone, as well as a 2022 5th from Chicago. So yeah, that's why there's the big asterisk over here, because this just muddy puddle of a mess kind of screws the whole picture up. But ultimately, this is the Ryan O'Reilly trade scenario with the 3-way trade too. St. Louis acquired O'Reilly, they gave up all this stuff. Buffalo acquired a whole bunch of stuff that eventually left the organization. Berglund, Sobotka, goodbye. You still have Thompson, you still have Ryan Johnson, and you still have Colin Miller, but you gave away Ryan O'Reilly in your own 5th. Vegas, they got a whole bunch of stuff. Matthias Janmark, DeSimone, all that. Alec Martinez too. They traded away Colin Miller and their own 2nd. LA acquired Lias Andersson and Francesco Pinelli for Alec Martinez and a 5th-round pick of their own. New York acquired Lias Andersson for Willie Coyle, and you have the Ottawa Senators who traded away their own 2nd-round pick for a 2nd and a 5th. This was complicated. Talk to me in the comments, how confused are you? Because I am confused to heck. It was difficult putting together this video, so I appreciate all the kind words and responses below. So talk to me in the comments what you think about this entire idea. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.